Here's a real quick example of how I set the focal point on my character's face in StarCitizen Alpha 3.5 to get a portrait shot with a blurry background um, on the female character. I'm standing in front of this sign to use it as a light. I'm going to hit F4 to go into advanced camera mode. This is the default position for the camera. I'm going to hit Z to swing it around. Then I'm going to increase the focal length to zoom in, basically, to flatten out the image, frame it a little bit better. And then we'll start applying the DOF blur with F4 and home. And what I like to do is go all the way to the extreme, full powered DOF. And like I've been telling people, the depth of field blur in 3.5 has been changed drastically, and there's quite a few problems with it. You can see her hair freaking out. The background does very strange things depending on what's behind you. If there are signs behind you, you might actually get repeating text all over the place. But setting it to the highest depth of field blur helps me find the exact focal point, which can be very tiny when you're using a long focal length. So I'm going to hold F4 and down arrow to back out until I get roughly in focus. Now, as you can see, her pupil on her right eye kind of comes and goes in focus. That's because she's breathing and swaying ever so slightly, and the camera sways a little bit as well. But there's no good way to exactly set the focal point. All I do is I just keep tapping up and down until I get it to rest where I want it to be. And for this demo, I'm going to call this good enough. So from here, I'm going to back off of the blur with F4 and end. Ideally until her hair starts acting normally. Again, this is another problem with this current depth of field blur. And I don't know if it's the background that's doing it to me or not, but her hair is not cooperating right now. But good enough for demo purposes. So from here, the focal point has been set with the longitudinal offsets, which are the up and down arrows. If I want to back away from her or move forward while holding that focal point, I'm going to hold F4 and use the mouse scroll. And you'll see it blur initially, but it should come back into focus once the camera settles. So I can go back, I can go forward, and you can see her face, her pupils are still in focus while everything else behind her is still blurred. That's as close as I can get with the mouse wheel zoom. As you can see, her hair is still freaking out. That's about it. So set the focal point with your longitudinal offsets, and then use the mouse wheel to fine tune the framing and the distance. If you do use free look to move from this point, it can change where the focal point is, because the focal point is, it's hard to explain without a diagram, but like here you can see her face is much closer to the camera now, and the focal point is actually probably near the right ear, which is on the other side of her face. So if you were to move the camera after you've set the focal point, you'll need to reset the focal point with the longitudinal offsets. Hopefully that helps.